Welcome once again to the Solo Promoter Podcast. My name is Grant Pachoco. It is a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, thanks for downloading. This is episode number 101. You know, when I worked at Disneyland many, many years ago, if a ride was said to be 101, that means it was broken down. But this episode is anything from broken down. I'm very excited to present this episode for you. In fact, I'm just going to get right to it, but I will say that this is a sort of visual episode, so you can listen to it via the audio podcast, and you'll hear it just fine. But there are probably some things that you will want to check out on the video version as we go through this, so you can find that over at solopromoter.com. Friends, this episode we have an exclusive interview with the one, the only Tom Filsinger. And as I said, I'm just going to get to it, but I will tell you, if you want hints, if you want perhaps some strong hints about what's going to happen at MythWorlds 2, if you would maybe like to see some preliminary sketch artwork of some of a character from MythWorlds 2, this is an episode you want to listen to. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to myself for the big interview with Tom Filsinger. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am super excited to welcome back to the Solo Promoter Podcast the creator of Filsiger Games, the Dark Menace himself, Tom Filsinger. Tom, welcome back to the show.
Good to be here.
Well, you know, we usually get together once a year to talk about the new Champions of the Galaxy set that you've written and released. But I did some counting this morning, and since you have released MythWorlds 1, you have also released 12 cards and an arena card, almost another whole full set since MythWorld 1's came out, if you include Promoter Prime, if you can include the bonus pack. So you have been busy, and you graciously agreed to sit down for another card-by-card journey through these new characters. So I know you used to release 2 sets a year, but this is something new, like releasing in Promoter Prime and releasing the bonus pack, right? For the main storyline.
Yeah, I guess, there was a time when I was releasing 2 games a year as a standard practice. Now it's whatever fits our storylines, our schedules. So I wouldn't, I don't know, where that's going and how that's going to go, but I'm having fun doing it. I will say that. I'm super excited, not just for MythWorlds 2, but what's coming up in the next couple of years, which is already planned to some degree. And so anyway, sorry, I'm probably rambling.
No, please ramble away. Well, let's get going on our cards here, and we're going to start with the cards that came out in Promoter Prime 2024. And I'm going to start with a big one because right now, really nobody knows much about Balder. So can you tell us a little bit about, I don't know, like if he's part of a storyline that's coming, or what you can tell us about this character, because right now we don't really know a whole lot about him.
Right. He will be discussed in MythWorlds 2, so there will be more given. As for what would be given now, I'll say this much. He came to deliver a message to Loki that there are people who do not approve of his actions. And we will hear not only more about what Balder has to say about that, but those other people who don't approve of his actions might arrive on the scene too.
Interesting. Okay, a little foreshadowing. And is he do you see him as and again, if I'm getting too much into MythWorlds 2, just say so. We'll move on. But is he going to go toe to toe with Loki, or is he just there kind of on his own fighting, Murtak and whoever else, or what's his position right now before we get MythWorlds 2?
No, Balder won't, as we can see by his playing card, is not talented enough to go toe-to-toe with Loki. He's a foot soldier that's part of a broader story that we brought, that I brought to the GWF to further the story that will continue in Mythworlds 2. There's going to be a lot going on on Valhalla with the Norse group, and Baldur is sort of the beginning stage of that.
Excellent. Well, it's good to get a little bit more info about him because promoters were definitely wondering, because we just got the card and we knew that he was sort of related to Loki somehow, but we weren't sure. So it's nice to get a little bit more, a little teaser, a little more details.
I hope people will enjoy speculating who might be unhappy with Loki.
I think I could think of a few people who might fit in there, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, maybe some Norse god that nobody's ever heard of, something like that.
Yeah, possibly. Well, another card that we got in Promoter Prime 2024 was Tai Chi, and this was sort of a long-awaited update because her first card was back in that 6-pack years ago, and so it was nice to see her get an update. And I really like this card and the artwork and everything on it as well.
Me too. We're very fortunate right now. We have 4 staff artists available whenever we need certain work. And this one is Tom. I'm almost positive that's Tom. That's Tom Rickard. And I'm sure he was credited with that, wasn't he? I think he must have been.
I believe so. Yeah.
So, right. You just for what you said, what we're putting together. Some of this is guided by practicality. We do want to create a new jumping on point. Now that had a good effect, that it's made us look at some characters like Tai Chi and say, well, we haven't done anything with this character for a long time. So it's about time. What do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention. There's a little bit of that here. We're going to have a complete starting jumping on point that you can do, and that'll be released this summer with some promotion for that so that we can get people who want to get caught up feeling like they can at a discount for a discounted price. But anyway, so Tai Chi needed the update, right? Tom did a real nice drawing. I don't have much more to say about that.
Yeah, she's been a real interesting character in my Fed. For a while, I had her. I don't really do like sort of hardcore matches, but I had her just sort of out of all of them, out of all the female wrestlers, sort of not shy from getting a little rough, if need be to win, especially going up against the gladiators and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I was very happy to see this update. And then we had in Promoter Prime 2024, we had the Arc of Eternity, which it was an arena card, which had a chart to roll for those challenging Pinnacle or his allies at the Arc of Eternity. And I don't know, I'm kind of thinking that this might be one of those cards like Baldur, where in Mythworlds 2, we might have a little bit more time rolling on it, it seems. That storyline.
Yeah, that could well be. What we've been doing, especially when we enter new territories like Mythworlds, is this has become, I believe, among our game fans, a popular complementary card is to have something that focuses on the arena and maybe some special rules there. That's what we were doing here, so that the powers that be, which are now Pinnacle, in lieu of a commissioner card, can be played, and it's through this card.
Excellent. Well, those were the 3 remaining cards from 2024, which we didn't get to discuss last time because they came out later on. But then at the end of the year, you released the Mythworlds bonus pack. And I think the person who had the big storyline out of this is Havoc. And I think you've even hinted that there's even more to his story to come in Mythworlds 2.
Way more. Way
Yeah.
more. So, in fact, I would say, well, Baldur and Havoc are actually ushering in major storylines without us talking at all about what they are. We know Havoc is back, but Pickle is surprised he's back too. I don't know if I've said that yet. In other words, there's a glitch here, um, and there's a story, and I will just have to leave for the time being. But there is. Let me say this much. I even wrote some notes about what I thought I could drop here. Um, the Mythworld's universe is going to expand some more. Uh, I don't even think Pinnacle is ready for that. And yeah, we'll get to be front row spectators for a universal civil war in a new universe.
Wow. Exciting stuff. I really like this card. I did when this was released. I sort of had matches against Havoc and Pinnacle to see if Pinnacle would allow Havoc to come back. So Pinnacle would just show up on this mysterious planet that Havoc was banished to and challenge him to a match right there. And if Havoc lost, he would just disappear. He'd just be like, "Oh, you're there now," And so I was using Havoc's, previous card, but then it was fun when this came out to work this one into that spot and show like the wear and tear, like on the front of his card that he's been having on this planet. So,
well, this is a good example too of us having a really nice staff now of artists. This is Nate, and this is very nice and nice coloring by Tom. I mean, I'm really proud of our creative teams for being able to do this. I'm like everybody else. If you like the art for a character, you like playing the card a little bit more, and so that helps, and I'm well aware of that. But anyway, so yeah, Havoc. Let me see if I wrote something else with Havoc. Well, we're going to be getting to a little bit more about Mythworlds 2 at the end. I'm assuming that's when you want to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know how I told you before, I like smaller roster size, and I do in general like that. This time, there's no avoiding that it's going to get bigger, and we have a new situation that has evolved in the Mythworlds, and get ready for an explosion of chaos and not that chaos, but an explosion of chaos and mystery and intrigue and war, and you just name it, it's going to come.
Excellent. Well, another person in the bonus pack who got an update is one of my favorite characters, and that is Tharkus. And actually, Tharkus, just in my fed, spoiler alert to anyone who hasn't read, just him and Saber just won the tag titles. They beat the headliners for the tag titles. So I'm really excited to see, like he seems like a really solid wrestler now and a really solid tag team partner. Not that he wasn't before, but this is just a really great card.
He's a key character. He evolved that way, with his personality. He became unique for being a humorous bigot. It allowed him to develop a personality that was midway between somebody you should take seriously and somebody who you shouldn't take seriously. He's midway between Saber and Murtak.
Right.
He's the middle guy.
Yeah.
So he's like Croc, and in a way, a little bit, that he's not your top tier bad guy, but he's got his flunkies and who look up to him like a god or something. And that's Murtak looking up to him, but Saber's kind of, looking askance at both of them,
Right.
But he knows Tharkus can help him more.
Yeah.
And so Tharkus has actually got some real talent. So I enjoyed the character too, and I think again a nice job here by Nate.
Yeah, I kind of see him as a little bit like maybe like an Iron Sheik type character, where boo on America. I hate America. Da, da, da. But he's a tough guy. He was a former champion, like that kind of thing. Like he can
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
you know.
Who else was like that in wrestling as a manager was Bobby Heenan. He could be funny, but he could also be a good, mean villain manager too.
Yeah.
He was able to straddle those opposites. And Tharkus is that kind of a guy, where there's always going to be a funny line in the handbook involving him, but you could also plug him into real storylines, like a tag championship or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and then we got sort of a double update here. We got Killer Queen and Exo King got new cards. And can you talk about a little bit about their evolution and in this new bonus pack?
Yeah, I wouldn't. This is one of those that I like I mentioned earlier, we needed to have cards of certain people so that we could put out a new starting point in a kind of a practical manner. So anyway, so we were looking for an update on these. I was actually thinking of reverting back to their original names, but I think that I like them as Exo King and Killer Queen, and I like them keeping the royal court theme alive. And so in my mind, they have adopted this, and they like it, and they're sticking with it, and they are a key part of the Liberators team, along with Grandmaster and the rest. So I can't say that that I can think of at this moment if there's really been any character evolution. I would say that they've just sort of settled into who they are and what they're fighting for.
The next card is somebody who I know you are fond of, is Faller. And Faller is a little bit more outdoorsy this time. The last one he was shirtless and to the cheering fans, and now it looks like he's a little bit more outdoorsy. But fun to have another update for Faller as well.
Yeah, that goes back to the classic tradition of the game, and that is of having people in and around the jobber level who are still enjoyable to play with. And Faller is, I hope, in the Jolly Giant category, the one that the kids like. And as we know, he's a friend of Sarsaparilla, who's another one of those kind of lighthearted, just genuinely nice characters. So, yeah, I mean, he rounds out the Titans roster.
Yeah, he's super fun. This is a fun update for him as well. But the card, the headlining card of the bonus pack, of course, is Murtak. And I love this. I love this upgrade to him a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Obviously, whatever set you put in, he'll steal the show. I mean, you just have to, all of them have to accept that, no matter who's in it, So anyway, this is another one of those characters that's great. And this is where I went back to Werner. He drew the first one. And I said, well, I loved what you did with that first one. So let's have another one. And he even has that little hole in his helmet. I do think that he deserved to be a little bit better too. And we don't need Murtak to suddenly become a star. That wouldn't fit. He's perfect at his level, and he can have his feuds with Faller and some other people. He can get upsets occasionally against some people. He can be in a tag team with Tharkus and possibly have a little success that way. You gotta, yeah, and he's another one that's always a storyline gold to write about whatever he's up to now and how he perceives the new situation.
Yeah, I have him right now. He is he's in a feud with Kraken actually, because he's telling Kraken like, I'm going to show you how to be a conqueror. Like I'm going to show you, and because there's that sort of that rift between Saber and Kraken now. And so, Murtak's just going full force after him. And what's fun is the first match I had between Murtak and Kraken, it was actually competitive. And I got very excited during the match. I was like, is Murtak going to do this? Because if he does, this will be amazing. And then he'll call himself the Legend Killer, and, he'll just, but he unfortunately Kraken was able to beat him. But that feud is still continuing, so who knows where it's going to go.
Well, that he's kept it going at least counts for something too.
Yeah.
And whenever a low level guy upsets a top level guy, that is huge. That's like career defining moment because then you can really now start to really push that character. And sometimes, like you said, I'll give you some. If you don't have multiple personality, probably. If you are interested, and I'm speaking to the audience that will hear this, if you want to hear some interesting results I just had last night, I'll do that because I started a new Fed, and I figure, well, I'll share that with listeners if they want to hear it.
Wow. Yeah, for sure.
But I'll quickly tell you why. I told you I always stop playing when I'm writing the new stuff. My mind just can't do those two things at the same time. However, doesn't mean I can't play something else. So I thought, yeah, I really want to play Champions, but I don't want to play the previous. Uh, the only thing I wanted to run up to on the previous year in Myth Worlds was I wanted to have the first Havoc versus Pinnacle encounter. So I did that. And that's where I stopped because I'll go from there. But like I said, I wanted to play Champions. So we can talk about that perhaps at the end, what my new COTG temporary, I don't know, it depends on how much I'm loving it, Fed is.
Excellent. Well, that's very
absolutely
exciting.
no overlap with Myth Worlds, none.
Wow, that's exciting. Yeah, no, we will for sure talk about that at the end. One other thing I wanted to say about Murtak is I always see him as when something good happens to him or like he gets the win, is that he immediately faints. Like he can't believe that he actually won and then he just wakes up. He's like, "Well, where am I?" Like that kind of thing.
That's hilarious.
He's like a fainting
It
goat.
even shocks him.
Yeah, yeah. He's so shocked he passes out.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, and then that brings us to Promoter Prime 2025, which are just releases that promoters just got in the mail last week or the week before. And first is we had updates to Castellax, Moog, and Sentinel.
Oh, I like when you put those together.
Yeah.
That looks nice. Damn, that looks nice that way. Anyway, I'm sorry, go on.
No, so is this? I'm assuming is this because I know I do a video every year on the channel where it's like if you want to start playing in this year, here's all the sets you need, and I know that Castellax are one of those or two of those cards that are from a set a while ago. So is this more for the jumping on point that these two got this update?
It's both,
Yeah.
because it has been a while, and I did think they are starting to get now years removed from the roles they played on Castellax as guardsmen or whatever. I forgot. I probably gave them a name, but therefore some of those powers should be diminished now, and that's what I did with this. And so what they are is still a competitive tag team, and they've got their own little group there. But they're going to take. Hold on. No, I won't say that. There's going to be a lot of people making a change in Myth Worlds 2. I can't remember exactly what it was with them. I was thinking for a second, and I'll say this just because this is one of those sets where I don't have to hide the concept. The concept is known. So I can drop hints now, about some. And when we get to teaser season, we'll release full card art too. I mean, we'll just roll it right out. But I was also thinking of Evolved, and they will have a new direction. And for this, I haven't made up my mind fully yet.
Yeah, I know that with their previous cards, and I'm sorry, it's Moog and Sentinel, and I don't know. I think it's Moog has the thing where he can't get fatigued during tag team matches. I think that's his ability. And then I would always just be like, you would just leave him in the whole time. Like he would just, he's just like this big rock. You can't. So it's nice to see this because now I can see them, at least the way I play, tagging in and out more.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of like that too. Through playing it, I was ready to see a change in their card. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, now, Tom, we get to one that had promoters talking, and that is the update to Shane. I don't know if you've looked on the message boards, but there is a lot of talk about Shane's new look. And I'll just let you talk about. He sort of seems to have a little bit of a possibly a style change, and also somebody noticed. I didn't even notice this, that listed home changed from Wyoming to Prescott, Arizona. So can you, and maybe, and I was thinking about this too, is this might be something that's all described in the Mythworlds 2 handbook, but what's up with Shane? What is this change?
Well, okay, that was another card that hadn't been updated in a long time, and I wanted a moving out of his prime card. Uh, and we have been emphasizing quite a bit, and especially in his dialect, how he talks. Like a cowboy from Earth. Uh, really, even a long time ago. Not maybe the way they even talk today. I wanted to lean further into that image. I like his connection with American
Oh, freedom fighter.
freedom fighter. I used to
Yeah.
get those American names mixed up sometimes. I like those. I like them together. They seem like they belong together, and so therefore I wanted to kind of bring him. I wanted to embrace this attitude of I'm the sheriff in town. I run this place, and I've got a posse, and we've got our goals. And sometime I'll have to share some of the other art that I looked at for this. Um, but it's not that far different. It's some of it was. Well, I actually, when I gave the coloring to Tom for this or a variation of this, it came back with a blonde beard. I said, "No, we can't have a blonde beard. That's not correct." So it's funny. There were other changes here too. That background, as originally presented to me, was more like an earth. Uh, what a sheriff type building with bricks and all. I said we always have to. Some characters maybe that works, but with others, I want it to be a reminder that this isn't Earth and it isn't that stereotype. So that we modified little things here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know this is a. I guess you could call it his downgrade card, and so I was aware that changing his image a bit might be a little bit off-putting, but you've got to. So now this might be his last cards. In other words, I don't know if there'll be another step down for
Yeah.
him. He's been too big of a character for. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I don't. I don't see this guy getting another downgrade.
Well, he's certainly one of my. He's actually probably my most favorite character of all time out of all the sets, just because he's had such great success in my Fed. And um, the other thing I wanted to say is, he's this card is a little bit of a downgrade, but he is a major player. Shane is one of the top guys in the Fed, even though he's got a little bit of a downgrade here. And to have this card in Promoter Prime, I thought was really cool because, sometimes Promoter Prime, I think, is more of the flavor card. So it's like, the a jobber or an undercard bum, as you used to call Ursa Major, or like an arena card or something. But having, we had the natives and Taishi and Mugen Sentinel and Shane. Those are all big names to have in Promoter Prime, and I think that's really awesome.
I see him as still a key guy. It's one of those characters that, by the force of his personality, will just always have some cachet just because of who he is. Even if he's not, maybe he could still win the heavyweight belt. It's just not like it used to be. But his first card came quite a long time ago now.
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly what year, but I think it was the 20s,
that seems right. Yeah.
2020 something. So, like I said, so he's moving out of his prime. Uh, we'll have to change things up a little bit. So I took some chances. I do that, so he's got a beard now. Wears a cowboy hat.
He's got fringe on his shoulders.
Yeah, he does whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
That's the character.
Yeah. I love it.
I'm
No,
just channeling him, through me.
yeah. Is this how you dress on a Saturday night when you go out in Arizona?
Yeah, when I go to Prescott,
Yeah.
that's the dress code there. No,
Uh,
Prescott is just an amazing Western town. I don't know if you've ever been there.
no, I haven't. I haven't.
So I picked him up and shipped him to move to Prescott.
I love it. Yeah.
By
Uh,
the way, I don't know if you pronounced it Prescott or Prescott. That's further proof of how cowboyized they are that it's not Prescott, it's Prescott.
Prescott.
Like duels tomorrow at noon in Prescott, you know? Uh, so I thought, I'm going to move him there. I mean, he still presumably comes back home to Earth. Well, he doesn't now. But I guess the wrestlers go back to their home planets for little mini vacations every now and then, even though the universe could be a big place, probably harder to do that. So he owns property in Prescott. That's all.
I love it. Well, it's like the $1 Million Man used to change where he lived depending on he makes his summer home here. He makes his winter
Yeah,
home here. So,
yeah.
they could change their things. Now, and maybe I have another question here, and you might be answering this when we talk about this new Fed you're playing. But are there any of like this is the last sort of these 12 cards that were released? Is there any part of you that is very excited to play with these new cards? And
I
to bring
always
them,
am.
yeah,
Oh yeah, I already used Havoc and Exo King Killer Queen. I think I had time for still all those peoples. Tharkus, yeah, and so I already used Havoc, and oh, absolutely, I always look forward to using the new cards.
is there one out of these that you're very excited to use that you haven't used yet that you're excited to see how they
I've
do?
used well. Let's see. I haven't used Sentinel and Moog yet, but that's the only ones.
Yeah,
I believe everybody else we've talked about, I already was playing before I stopped.
got it.
I haven't used, oh no, wait a minute. I haven't used the new Shane yet either. But I would focus Shane on tag teams with Freedom Fighter and on side feuds more than I would focus on him, maybe even going for the tag belts, but not so much. And feuding with Diva and her people, like the headliners, more than I would focus on him doing a big run for the heavyweight belt anymore.
Got it.
Maybe I said I was going to say the U.S. belt, the Intercontinental. I might too.
Yeah. Yeah, he's held both my Galaxian and I call it the interplanetary title. He's held both of those
Oh, I
for
said yeah, interplanetary. I'm sorry, I said it wrong.
no, people call it different things, but
No, but it is yeah.
yeah, he's held it for like he's had record reigns with both of those. So going for the tag is a
He's
great
held records in
thing.
my Fed too.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying I think he's had his prime. He's had many years with a prime card, over 10 in our game history, at least it sounds like.
Yeah.
I thought it was time to, you keep bringing in new people, even though we don't know how long Myths World's new people are going to last. You're still bringing in new people. You still want to improve some of the older ones. If not, when I say older ones, the ones that are maybe, there'll come a time where maybe Ice Star needs to make his next move. You got to have room for that. So you got to slowly ease out some of the other people, and I'm doing that with Shane, who's a character I always loved, and I'm not done with him because he's good for feuds. I mean, he could still have a one-on-one feud with Loki now, and he'd probably win a lot of those matches. So he's still competitive.
Listeners, I was very excited because when Tom and I were planning to do this today, Tom actually sent me a little sneak peek of something from Myth Worlds 2. and I think we'll move into sort of the MythWorlds 2 portion of the program here. And do you want me to show this image right now, or do you want to set it up first? But the preliminary sketches.
Okay, I'll set it up for just a
Sure.
little bit. This is the way Daryl and I work a lot of the time. I'll give him a character idea, and what will be sent to me is pose ideas. That's before the character is really developed yet, because that takes extra time for Daryl. He can throw together poses pretty quickly. Then there it is. So this is very broad in terms of who this character is going to wind up being, although I won't mind talking about that in the future. I'll say that was this guy. But this is the way we start. I give him the character in general with the way I perceive the look. Then he gives me different poses. I'll narrow down in a pose. Then we'll start to dress up the character with the specific features that they. Oh, I just thought, since I'm in the stages of just creating now, well, why don't I share a part of that process as it's happening? This character's done now. I won't say anything more about that yet. It might even be one of those that gets a teaser. And then people can try to guess. I wonder which one of these 4 poses he used. But, and sometimes it's none. Sometimes we just start over. He just gave me one with a different character, 4 poses. And I said, well, one, I need the character to look a little bit more different, or more like ABC instead of XYZ. And I like 2 of these poses. And so I just got today in an email the way I described the character, which sometimes there are broad characteristics that need changing right off the bat. Like, for example, if I wanted this character to look more like an alien, I'd have to say this character needs to look more like an alien and have the following features. So now that gets incorporated into the pose I selected. And I've done that, like I said, with another card today with 2 poses. And I approved one of them and said, we're ready to go to finish on this. Finish that. That'll be number 7. Got 3 more to go. We'll be done by next week. Tom will be doing the coloring. I'm working on the back card stats already. I like to wait to see the final art before I do the card stats, because even though I have the ideas of the stats in my mind, the drawing changes it sometimes. In fact, it has a big impact.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. It's fun seeing this, because like when you and I get together, you'll often share with us like preliminary sketches, or like, oh, here's an early sketch of how this character looked, but it's not close to finish, but you can see where the finished card came from this. But I don't think you've ever shared with us like this sort of different pose thing where so this was really exciting when you sent this over today. I thought, to see this kind of peek behind the curtain.
This is step 1.
Yeah.
Everything I would share with you in the past was the next steps as it was being developed, unless there was a significant change. And there are sometimes in that this guy just shouldn't look like this at all. And that's what happened with one of the recent ones. And we changed it. And it's good. It's good.
Well,
even the coloring, I'll send to Tom. We had a new character, and I said to Tom, this is how I'll describe the character. He sent it back to me, and the coloring was total opposite of what I thought it should be. Maybe I'll share that sometime too, where the colors totally changed the character. And then, so we switched it to what I was perceived the character would look better like. But boy, I'll tell you, the different coloring scheme absolutely made a totally different character.
Tom, I think we need a coffee table book of variations of art through the years of Champions of the Galaxy. Just a nice big glossy book where we can see all these great pieces of art. Because even though I know it's not your final vision for the character, I always love seeing these early sketches and see how a character evolves. So,
and what's interesting about that for me, when I sometimes look back, you always sometimes I'll look back and say, oh, you know what, this wasn't so bad after all. You're always taking a guess into what you think will look the best, and I'm with you. Like if there's some song on an album that I like, and then they release a demo that was going off in a different direction from the one that was released, so I find that very interesting to hear it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, oh, that has some good elements. It's too bad that lost that. You're always going to have that uh, choices to make.
Have you ever like looked back through old art and went, said to yourself like, well, this art didn't work for this, I was developing, I don't know, who Grandmaster, and this art didn't work for Grandmaster, but this could work for a completely new character. Have you ever sort of, reused art, not reused, but you know what I'm saying? Like looked at old art to inspire new characters or something?
I'd say over the years, probably, but I just can't think of anything right off the top of my head.
All right. Well, since we're talking about Myth Worlds, you have been very active on the Filsiger Games message boards, posting sort of little updates, inside Tom's brain and stuff like that. And so I'm going to ask you about a couple things that you posted about Myth Worlds too, but if you don't want to talk any further, we don't have to talk about it. But you said that there is a new match that's going to be coming with
Oh
Myth
yeah,
Worlds
yeah,
2.
yeah. That's man. I've got a storyline that brings. Hey, let me also more announcements. More announcements. Um, my new match will also be in Ringside Companion 2, which is coming this summer also, by the way. All right, now yeah, not yet, because the match fits the story and fits a character. And I'm real excited about this story. And like I said, a lot of things will be revealed ahead of time this time. Well, of course, we'll hold some things back for surprises, but
Well,
it's going to be a fun match.
yeah. Well, and another thing you mentioned is, and I was going to see if I could try and get a hint from you about this, is you mentioned that a legend is going to return.
Oh, that's right.
And
I forgot I did say that.
so what I'm wondering is, and this is, I'm not looking for a name, and we're not looking for a bounty hunter moment here, but are we talking like a Kraken era legend, or are we talking somebody more recent? I was wondering if you could give us that hint.
Well, let me say not recent.
Okay. Okay.
That still leaves a couple hundred guys or whatever it
Right.
leaves, you know. Uh, let me just say, and I'm not going to say much because that might even be left to receiving it, possibly, but it's not entirely unguessable. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it's not, once a person sees it, they'll go, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Well, we're excited for late June, early July for this new set. Is there anything else? Those are the two things I wanted to ask you about Myth Worlds 2. Is there anything else you would like to
I
tell
made
us
my
about?
notes here. Let me just look. I'm working on a lot of other things too, and you people will see that some of this stuff is not exciting. I think I was saying to people, I want us to focus on some things for Filsinger Games, like different possible product lines that we can develop more if we had more time, or different promotional materials. So I'm doing all that. Everybody will see the results of that at Galacticon. We'll say that. For those people who like to collect our stuff, I think they'll enjoy what we're going to put out. Let's see. We're going to have a larger roster, expanding universe, Havoc secret revealed, Osiris mystery solved, Loki's next bold move. What do you think?
I love it. I love it.
And then I will tell you about my new Fed if you want me to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me ask one other question. I want to ask one other thing about the jumping on point. Um, you've been doing all this new art for, like the Castellix and Shane and Tai Chi, and for this new jumping on point. Will there be any new art that is exclusive to the jumping on point? Or will it all be for promoters who have all these sets, they have all the cards already? Or will there be, in the jumping on point, it's like, oh, we have a new version of the art for this, for this person or something?
No, I don't think so. I think what we're doing is trying to push this for people who want to just get caught up.
Got it.
And so that at this point, no, that isn't. It's I think people who are already caught up have everything they need.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, let's talk about this new mystery fed that you have started. Your
Yeah,
alternate fed.
it's a combination of all kinds of bizarre things. I didn't care, so I put it together. But it's a tournament of champions fed. So it's like an all-star team of GWF history, and I'm bringing them together as I'm thinking, and I might post those results too. I'm bringing them together because it's hard to bring an all-star team together and then still put them into factions. The premise really is it's a tournament, and basically the heroes against the villains, and the matches will be scored. We're still gonna have a champion, and we're still gonna have a tag team champion, let's say. But here I'll tell you. I'll run you my results from the first round of my tournament for the belt.
Awesome. Yeah, let's hear it.
The Executioner eliminates Commander Sam. The Matador takes out Sunman. Wolf crushes Skull once he gets him. The Blue Dazzler upsets Thantos.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, kind of upset here too. Mandrill takes out Endgame. Monolith beats Max Shield. Chaos defeats Prime Omega. And Star Warrior beats Morpheus. So now we'll go to round 2 of that one. And I'll get a champion out of all those guys. And let's see, the 4 big matches, Mandrill versus the Blue Dazzler. That's interesting that they wound up matched up because either one might be able to beat the other and still go on. Wolf and Executioner, I thought, well, that's an oldie but goodie.
Right.
I enjoyed it. Monolith and the Matador, Star Warrior and Chaos. So I've decided to just put a whole bunch of superstars together throughout history, starting with early classics, the classic 24 guys, and then the Tournament of Champions guys. And that's my focus.
And so it's possible in the next round, even you could have Chaos versus Matador, which would be an interesting matchup.
Although they will be aligned in this Fed, but
yeah,
it might wind up that way.
And is the Fed bigger than just those guys? That's just like who's in the tournament. Okay, yeah.
I've got the other guys ready to go too, and the females too. But those are like I'm having a big weekend. It's Tournament of Champions weekend, tournament to crown the champions, and then we'll move into our regular cards.
Excellent. Well, I know people would love those results as well, so hope you can post them.
Thanks. It's meeting my fix. I really was missing playing.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to play with anybody I'm currently writing, so I tried to avoid that.
Yeah. Well, if you have a moment, we have some promoter questions that were submitted. Brock Riblet wants to know, are there any updates on the new version of the Dark Menace of the Universe book? Like the sort of updated version?
Oh, all right. Yeah. That's nice that somebody would ask. I really appreciate that.
No update.
I just don't think it's going to happen. I just started to write it, and it just wasn't coming to me. It's right now off the possible release schedule.
Yeah. But not
Don't know why.
not impossible to go back to at some point down the road.
No, no, no. I don't know why. It wasn't. I have another book I want to write that might supersede that at the moment, and I'll talk about that if I actually get that going. I don't want to talk about something like that and then say, oh, I didn't do that either. So.
All right, and then we have another question here from Matt, aka Iowa Oaks. He actually sent in two questions, and I'm gonna read what it says, and then I'll let you respond to it. And again, I'm reading it word for word the way he posted it. I don't understand the need for secrecy when it comes to art or names after a certain amount of time. What is his reasoning? And he clarifies, I ask in regards to this new color set, Sudden Death 2094, the reimagining of Sudden Death 2094, and the previous reimagined set. Art means a lot to this game and decisions on ordering. So I guess he's saying it's why wasn't all the art released before it came out? And I think you kind of answered this in, well, you talked about a little bit when you were talking about Mythworlds 2. It's like now everybody knows the concept. We can put this out. But so why hold art back, for a set like 2094 that is everybody has seen the art, or most of the players have seen the art from before?
There's no reason for that. We could have. I mean, I just didn't think of it. We just have a release schedule. We know we want to put out a certain number of teasers. I wouldn't have minded doing that. And if that, and it's true. I don't even like to call this reimagined, and I've stopped us calling it that because they're not really reimagined. It depends on how you define reimagined. There's a hard reimagined, with totally new art and everything. And then there's a soft reimagined where you've got the old art, but now you've got colors and now you got backgrounds. So the reimagined word I don't care for as much for these kind of sets. The Larry Snelly art, like I said, is so excellent that I brought the new order into this Tournament of Champions Fed I'm doing now in my tag team division because I just love the way they look. Yeah. And Destructon also. So no, there wasn't a reason or a policy around that. No, it's just something that we get really busy. It's something that's, I think, hard for people to realize that we aren't wizards of the coast. For most people, this isn't our full-time job. And it hasn't been for my whole life. Don't ask me how I was able to do it. I just I'm a time lord. I was able to create more hours in the day than most people have. But for a lot of people that are part of our outstanding community of creators and fans, which blurs together, they have families and businesses. So we are very best to meet the needs of our game fans.
Excellent.
That's all I would say that type of thing just is simply an issue that slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, just time. Time is, yeah.
Yeah, we weren't trying to hold it back.
You got to go to Kronos to get all the work done.
Right.
Well, and Matt had one other question, and we'll use this to wrap up. Have you ever considered using Kickstarter to help crowdfund some of the side projects, like official game mats or limited edition card sets, and saying that seems to work really well for other games? It's like, well, if we want to do game mats, maybe we can do it through a Kickstarter, and get it out that way. Have you ever given any thought to that?
No, and just because I'm not built to be able to do that kind of stuff and that kind of detail, it would have to come from my staff or somebody else to say, I'm willing to take the lead on that. Like we did with, I forgot what we called the event when the wrestlers came to life.
The live event, yeah. I think it was Champions of the Galaxy live event, yeah.
We had Todd and some others who did a Kickstarter, but we're willing to put in the time and energy into monitoring it and doing it and all the work that's involved in that. So it requires a team to be able to do that. And I wouldn't be much of a member of that team.
Excellent.
I used to do everything, though. I will say that. I used to just do the whole website. I designed when it was all starting. I was doing all the HTML code. I was doing everything. That's when my Time Lord powers were at their finest, because that's when I was still teaching and still had a family too. But I did it.
Well, I don't know if you've ever been to the website archive.org, but they have a thing where you can see old versions of any website that has been on the web. So every once in a while, I'll go back and I'll look at the old Filsinger Games with the Starfield background where you click if you want champions or legends, and it takes you, and it's just fun to see how it used to look way back in the
Oh, I'd love to see
early
that link.
2000s.
So if you get around to it, send me a link to that.
Sure, I can do that. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Is there anything else you want to leave promoters with here? Are you going to be at Galacticon, or do you know or not know yet?
I don't think so. I think, I'll tell you another thing is, I practically don't like to go anywhere. I just don't like to travel. Other people, my wife, Leslie, she loves to travel. She'll be going to Florida and stuff. No, I'm not a big fan of that. Not especially since I'm so far away now.
Yeah. Well,
But I will be there for everything virtually.
Right. Well, we will try and get you out to California too. We still gotta.
Now that's closer. So
got to do a
it's
Galactical
doable.
event. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. We really appreciate it, and I appreciate it, and I know the promoters do as well.
Oh, I really appreciate the opportunity, and I like this because it gives people a chance to talk. And thank you very much for the opportunity, Grant.
Of course. If you have a topic you'd like the show to cover, leave it in the comments. Be sure to subscribe or follow wherever you are listening or watching this. And if you want to check out my personal feds, you can go to gwfpromoter.com and lowpromoter.com. The theme song for this show is American Guy by Throwing Toasters, used by permission and available on Apple Music, Spotify, and anywhere you get your music. This podcast is not affiliated in any way with Filsiger Games or its subsidiaries. It's purely for entertainment purposes only. Thank you so much for listening. It's been great to have you here. This episode is copyright 2025 Saturday Morning Media, all rights reserved.